V has an interesting story in Murder Drones. She had the option to always go with Jay and Sin in the end, as Jay did give her the offer to join the winning side, as Jay said. But V chose to go down a different path, a path of redemption, a path which would give her one of the happiest fates in Murder Drones alongside with Uzi and Ed. And ultimately, it took a lot of character growth on her side, and ultimately making a bunch of decisions which ended up paying off in the end to ultimately save her and redeem herself. Hello everyone, this is Panzer from Panzerverse, and on today's video, we are going to be talking about V's ultimate redemption arc and her story that she got through it. So who is V? V is one of the 3 original worker drones that we see in the manor before Sin shows up in the beginning of episode 5. V in the manor was a shy, nerdy type girl. She had glasses on, and from what we could tell, she was very shy and kind of like the forgotten middle child in the whole saga that was the manor and everyone in it. She was also one of the first ones to unfortunately be turned into one of the first disassembly drones. As we see later in episode 5 in the memory flashbacks, she was the first one that got experimented on and the first one that was successfully turned into a disassembly drone by Sid. Now moving on. We see that V destroys what was left. I mentioned this in my J video. V ultimately destroys her personality, with being this shy, nerdy girl, to becoming this ruthless killer that wants to see everyone dead in kills first, talks later. The reason why she had this, and this was character design that Liam is known for, is he usually likes in his stories to have one of the female characters usually be a psychopathic murderer. So that's just a little fun fact I wanted to add. But we see this in V, as one of the things that we do see when N is talking with Uzi about V is that V pretty much enjoys seeing the death of others, and she very much enjoys killing. Now, V is lucky in episode 1 where she doesn't get her head blown off by Uzi's railgun, so she's able to be taken basically as hostage by Ed and Uzi. In episode 2, she doesn't play that much of an impact. She's pretty much very minor. She tries to get into Uzi's head because we start seeing Uzi starts having symptoms of the solver. But ultimately, V doesn't play that much of a role, and based on the first 2 episodes, she makes her case worse against redemption because she keeps killing people. But by the time of episode 3 is when we see the first little bits of growth. You gotta start somewhere, and V starts it in episode 3. Now, V's original plan was, during the prom, she was gonna murder every single worker drone in there and find some joy out of it. She does not. There are 2 reasons for this. One, simply Lizzie had the plan alongside with Doll. This was mainly Doll's idea, which was to kill V. In order to kill V, she would have to be made prom queen, so Doll does the murders later, and V becomes prom queen. Lizzie, out of the kindness of her heart, but also, I think she starts to develop a relationship with V. Now, I don't know if this would be a romantic relationship or just a simple friendship, but let's just assume it's a relationship. I don't know what kind it would be, but it's a relationship nonetheless. She protects V, and I think V remembers this, because this will play important later on in the story. So V, ultimately, has to kill Doll, because Doll's trying to kill her, but then she starts willingly work with Uzi and Ed. And when they investigate Doll's parents dying, and V did kill Doll's parents, they see, okay, V said, oh yeah, they didn't even taste that good. Showing that she hasn't really changed that much, but she's changed slightly a little bit. Also, quick reminder, I did make a video about Yiva, so please check it out. I'll have it here. Please check out that video. I spent a long time on it. But now going into episode 4. Episode 4 is very interesting, because this is the one where we see V actually kind of caring about the worker drones-ish. She goes from killing multiple to killing only one. That's progress. I know it's barely anything, but that's a little bit of progress that we do see in the beginning. But also, she kind of plays as this friendly camp counselor, and she genuinely actually kind of tries to build a relationship with the worker drones. Even though it's not the most perfect one, it's somewhat of a relationship that is built, and it has a very easy time doing it, because Ed didn't do that much killing in front of them, but V still has some proving to do. And during this episode, we do see V is very overprotective of Ed. We also saw this back in episode 3. She's genuinely overprotective of Ed. I don't know why it would be, but we know V doesn't really have feelings for Ed, but I think she genuinely cares about Ed like he's a younger brother of sorts. But going on, when Uzi goes crazy and kills all of her classmates and she's about to kill Lizzie, V swoops in and saves the day. And I think this is where V starts to develop that kind of, attachment to the worker drones, especially to Lizzie, as this will not be the first time that she saves Lizzie. So she starts fighting Uzi, nearly gets defeated by Uzi until N swoops in, and then she starts complaining with N. But towards the end, this is where we see the first major shift in V. Towards the end of the episode, V is seen with the teacher, and the teacher asks, "Oh yeah, what happened to these 6 students?" And V basically, instead of blaming Uzi for it, she took the blame herself, because she knew if Uzi took the blame for it, Uzi would be punished far worse than she would. She would barely be punished, but Uzi would be punished way worse. So that ends episode 4. Now, before we move on to episode 5, there's Murder Drone's Intermission, which is supposed to be in between episodes 4 and 5. It's not official with Glitch, it's not official Liam work, but a decent chunk of the community considers it somewhat canon, and it kinda helps V's arc. So for this example, we're gonna add it in, but remember, this is not canon, so this is not 100%. In Murder Drone's Intermission, we see N and V trying to teach Uzi how to fight. V is still her old self, where she isn't that helpful, but she starts becoming a little bit more helpful, and when Uzi turns over and V fights her, V nearly has a chance to kill Uzi. In the last moment, something I think flashed into her. The hopelessness. And I think after being with Uzi for a while and being with N for a while, it kind of changed her perspective on everything. And she chooses not to kill Uzi. Now, I know this is not canon, but we could consider this as another major point of V slowly redeeming herself and ultimately going down the path that she does go down. But episode 6 is where the next major plot point comes in. In this episode, they meet up with Tessa. And while meeting up with Tessa, they go through cabin fevers. And I'm going to skip everything involving Alice, but let's go towards the end. In the end, they're surrounded by sentinels. Going down the elevator, it's Tessa, V, and Uzi. V finds out later on, because she was separated, that if she wore glasses, which are the same glasses that she wore back in the manor, she didn't have to deal with the idea of being frozen by the sentinels. Basically, the sentinels couldn't freeze her. So she starts fighting them, and she loses her glasses. V, knowing that if she could not kill all the sentinels, they're eventually going to make it up with the rest of the group, and she knew she couldn't just go with the rest of the group, because if she did, the sentinels were going to get up to them and basically destroy them. So V, in the ultimate act of sacrificing herself, basically sacrifices herself to deal with the sentinels, and most people presume V is dead at this point. Spoilers, V is not dead. She's going to make a comeback. But as we can see, this is one major point, which is, beforehand, I don't think she would have been willing to sacrifice herself. But at this point, Uzi has shown her enough where she trusted Uzi to leave the rest of the group on the right path. And for V, this is basically one of the biggest cases that show she was willing to sacrifice her life for the sake of getting through with the mission. The next time we see V is episode 8. Remember Lizzie, people? Well, Lizzie, Thad, and Colin are in trouble because Jay is there. And surprise, V's alive with a sentinel, and the sentinel's name is Sparky. That is very cool. But basically, V starts battling Jay, and during the battle, Jay tells her, "Hey, you can always join the winning side." V could have made the choice to join up with Jay, and probably have been on the winning side, but she chose not to. She chose to stay with what she'd chosen before. So she keeps battling Jay, and eventually the final battle occurs. And during the final battle, she is fighting as hard as she can because she believes she's on the right side with Uzi and Ed. And ultimately, they end up defeating Sin. As I talked about in my Jay video, we knew what happened to Jay. Jay's fate is unknown, but V's fate is luckily known. We know of V, she was eventually accepted by the murder drones as a whole because she had ultimately helped save the day. And her and Lizzie continue this relationship. Is it romantic? We don't know. Is it friendship? We don't know. Like I said before, I'm going to call it a relationship. But in the music video, we ultimately do see V gets one of the happier endings. Like N, like Uzi, she gets a happy ending. And it could have easily turned if she had made a few wrong decisions, especially in episode 6, but especially even episode 4. If she had made the wrong decisions in episode 4, she would have never had this fate. So it took a lot of time, but V ultimately has probably had one of the best development arcs in Murder Drones with having the most growth, going from someone who wanted to murder every single murder drone to someone who genuinely befriended the murder... Sorry, did I say murder drones? I'm going to say someone who wanted to kill every single worker drone to eventually befriending most of them and genuinely enjoying their company and everything. In conclusion, V went through a redemption arc that not just only changed her fate, but it changed the fate for the rest of the characters in Murder Drones, and ultimately led to a happy ending. So that is all, folks, that I have for you today. Please like and subscribe, especially subscribe on I'm trying to get to the road to 1,000 subscribers. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all on the next video.